20%. Now imagine if 30%, 40%, 50% switch. The Democrats would be years before they ever get in power again. I'm going to tell y'all why. They solely relied on all the black population in order to win. And when the blacks shifted, that small percent shifted, she had a problem. Still 78% voted for her. 80% voted for her, which is the overwhelming majority. But that small bit shifted, tipped the scale. So just imagine if we keep shifting it, they'll never win and they'll never get in power. But in order for us to do that, we have to, while we have the momentum, we have to deliver for the people. The people are looking for tangibles. They are looking for tangibles. They calling up now. They asking for more tangibles now than I ever seen them ask for. They asking for something that ain't even vote for Trump. People calling, what are you going to do for black people? It's me and Brother Zoe say, you ain't even vote for him and you asking something from him. You want something from a president that you didn't vote for, but you ask nothing from a president that you didn't vote for. So black people understand this. We are in a position that we need to go ahead and seize this momentum. Continue to deliver tangibles for our community, and then we can swam and we never get control.
So I want to speak a little bit to the science behind this, because I think this is really important. When Ramon and I were speaking about who was going to be the president, he gave me the evidence that Vice President Harris was going to lose. And let me explain this. And this is all numbers. This is all the things that we've been teaching and we've been learning from him and Malik as we've been sitting here in all these sessions. When Vice President Harris spent most of her time in Detroit and Pontiac, Advocate told me he knew she would lose. Why? Because the white vote outweighs the black vote 6-1. It's just numbers. This is just science. This is all numbers. This is why the Democratic Party always talks about race, because they understand the numbers. They understand that if 20% of the black vote goes toward Republican, they know they will lose. They know those numbers. That's why we saw President Trump lose in a landslide. That's why you always hear Democrats talk about race, because they understand that if they lose the black vote, then they will lose every position, which we just saw happen on Tuesday. Adversely, President Trump, where did he spend his time the last couple of days of his election? Does anybody know the last place that he was in Michigan? He was in Grand Rapids. Now, why was he in Grand Rapids? Because Grand Rapids has only 39% of Republicans. I was with J.D. Vance last Monday. Where was he at? Where did J.D. Vance, where was the last place he was at? Flint. So think about that for a second. Now, if Vice President Harris went to Howell, Michigan, she went to Brighton, I wouldn't have had confidence that President Trump was going to win, because she was then going after a number of people whereby she needed, not that she already had. Does that make sense? It all deals with numbers. So as a black population, we have registered voters, about 34 million registered voters in America. 20% of that is about 6.5 million people. That's how many people went for President Donald Trump. And because of that number, he was able not to be put in the presidency, he was able to be propelled into the presidency, meaning that he won in a landslide. So I want you all to look past the fluff, look past the feelings, and look at the numbers. And when you look at the numbers, then you'll see the power of how the black vote could sway people. And if you've spent any time with us at Souls to the Polls, you know that this started with Asa Philip Randolph, who was the mentor to Dr. Martin Luther King. He understood that. That's why he would grab as many black people as possible, approximately 100,000, to show white people that the black voting bloc was very important. Remember, when black people say things like, oh, we can pick a president, we cannot pick a president because it's only about 13 to 14% of us. But what can we do? We can propel a president. That's why Vice President Harris will get rappers, because in her mind, she thought this could be the way that I could be able to solidify the black vote, but she was wrong. Because black people, we think deeper than just rappers and entertainers, right? We want to talk about policy, right?
Yes, thank you for that, and thank you all for being here. I just want to say that now that the Republican candidate for President Donald Trump has won, and now that the United States Senate is majority Republican, we still have a situation in Detroit locally.
Yeah.
You can't forget that. Because regardless of who's representing the nation on the federal level or in Congress or in the White House, any funding or any monies, including our own tax streams, local tax streams, that are here in Detroit and that are supposed to be allocated or circulated or distributed towards helping us here locally, housing, education, transportation, and so forth and so on, police services and protection, fire services and protection, EMS services, and the time it takes for them to arrive to deliver those services. Because you know we got all these speed humps up here now that we didn't vote for here in the city of Detroit. So what's my point? Regardless of who's on the federal level, we have to keep our eye on the prize, our eye on the ball. Amen. Here locally, because we have some local politicians, and they've been Democrats since as long as I can remember. And I go back a ways. All of your politicians, all of your elected officials here in the city of Detroit have been Democrat for as long as I can remember. And I've been around a lot of decades right here in Detroit. And they're still Democrats. Every last one of your Detroit City Council members are Democrats. And they give their allegiance to the Democratic Party. The mayor, Democrat. The police chief, Democrat. The Wayne County Sheriff, Raphael Washington, Democrat. The Wayne County Executive, Democrat. They're all Democrats. There's been billions of dollars to come to this city in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, billions. Billions. But it hasn't gotten to us. Why? How do I know? The proof is in the pudding. The poverty rate of Detroiters is going up percentage points when it should be going down, especially with that huge influx of federal and state funds. But it's going up, and we have a child poverty rate of 50%. So we have to keep our advocacy and our activism and our citizenship. We have to continuously put forth the effort to ensure that we're not being robbed like we've been robbed. And we are being robbed on the local level, regardless of who the president is. And it's good that we have a Republican president now, because we do have a chance now of having some federal oversight with all this thievery and robbery that's going on down here right under our noses at the hands of these Democratic elected local officials that Ramon and I and Pastor Sewell have been fighting tooth and nail. And so we can't forget that. Let's say Trump decides he wants to send $2 or $3 billion down here for some new program that he's able to get through. But where is it going to go? It's not going to go directly to us. It goes to Duggan and the council first.
Can you speak a little bit, if it's okay, can we elaborate a little bit? I saw something amazing this week. It just blew my mind. You know, God is so good. If you want to have your eyes open, he'll allow you. If you want your eyes open. President Trump became the president-elect at about 3 o'clock in the morning, a.m. on Wednesday morning. Yesterday, which was Thursday, at 3 p.m., the city council called an emergency meeting. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Now, think about that for a second. I'm just a, I'm just a kid from the east side of Detroit, y'all. I just serve, love my city. But Fudel, why would the city council call an emergency meeting? And the emergency meeting had everybody there. All 9 council members. Emergency. Now, what do you think the emergency meeting was about? It was about federal funds. It was about ARPA dollars. Do you know that the city of Detroit has $400 million? Can anybody do something with the extra $400 million? I mean, could we do anything with our city? I mean, come on, if you could do something with $400 million in the city, will you just wave at me for a second? Will you just wave at me? And I thought it was fascinating, Kevin. It blew my mind. And then Malik asked a question. I don't want to digress, but the point is this. When you have a Republican president, that president can regulate those resources in a way that Democrats say things like, oh, I want to work with the president now. Oh, they was talking about him like he was everything but a child of God a couple weeks ago. But now, I want to work with the president now. We have an emergency meetings now. This is why we will be doing this by the grace of God every single weekend. Before we leave, we have a huge announcement on Wednesday. We're going to do something very special. We're going to do something on Wednesday, very special here at the church. Very excited about it. But we're going into this local level because we need to remove everybody out of that city council. We need to make sure we get Ramon in there. Amen? Okay. So we're going to be raising money. We're going to do everything we can to get him in there. All right? We're going to work very hard. Get him in there.
I just want to, the meeting that Pastor Zoe talking about, all they wanted to know was could Trump take the money that they had. They sitting on still $400 million left, that so many problems still exist in this city. How do you got $400 million left and we still overwhelmed with a pandemic? We stay in a pandemic. Our pandemic for blacks didn't start in 2020. We was in a pandemic way before then. So how do you still got $400 million when we've been knee deep in the pandemic before the other pandemic, and money was earmarked to you to address the pandemic? You still got close to $500 million that you allegedly sitting on. But they wanted to know at that meeting, could Trump take it? Could he do anything about it? How could we hide the money? They even talked about putting the money somewhere else in a third party where he couldn't even get. I swear, I can't make this up. They was even talking about that. The lawyer say, I don't know. But to answer that question to our counsel, because they watch us,